Okay, this is going to be a demonstration on how we're going to paint in our landscapes. This can be used for 6th grade. It can also be used for my 8th graders, 7th graders. You are doing a monochromatic painting, but you could do some of the same tips and techniques, but you would just have to make sure that you were selecting the appropriate dark or light color of whichever color you have mixed up. So as you can see, I have started painting in this landscape. That's okay. I did that as part of my demonstration, but I'm going to continue on with this. So what are some things that you need? You need a mixing tray. Okay, this is our mixing tray. If it's not clean already, I would suggest rinsing it off real quick. You're going to need a small container of water. As you can see, my container of water is not completely full. Remember, the more water you have, the more water you have to spill. And I don't clean up your spills, you clean up your spills. And I have what we call tempera cakes. Okay? In the catalog, when I ordered these are called tempera cake paints. Okay? I have a variety of colors in here. I have my standard red, yellow, and blue. Okay? So, I have all the colors that I need, plus black and white. Okay? This is the one that I use, so it's a little messy because I haven't really spent that much time cleaning it. If yours, that is one of the student use ones, is really, really, really messy, then I would suggest maybe taking a sponge, a damp paper towel, and cleaning up some of the paint, okay, with a damp sponge, paper towel. That will help kind of clean up some of those colors that get messy really easily, like the yellow and the white, okay? For the most part, I made this mess, so it doesn't really bother me to use it. But if it bothers you or if it's inhibiting you being able to make the colors that you want, then by all means, make sure you are cleaning it up. All right, so I have my landscape drawn out. I have established my foreground with things that are big. They're in the bottom third of my paper. They're big, and they're going to have lots of details. Some you can see I've started adding the details here into the texture of my trunk because I was giving a demonstration with this. I'm going to go into further detail with that in this video. I have my middle ground established. That's kind of here in the middle of my paper. I've got a pond. I've got some trees over here. Notice, these trees are, if I measure with my hand, they're about this big. Compared to this tree, it's probably about half the size. Okay? So remember, foreground, big, has lots of details. Middle ground, medium size, and has some details. Then I have my background established, which is where I have a little house. I have some smaller trees in the background. I have a bigger tree right next to my house. But look, if I measure, it's like a third of the tree in the foreground, and it's less than half of the tree that's in the middle ground, okay? So, smaller. They don't have as much details either. You're also working towards the top of your paper. So, let's get started. I want to paint in my biggest areas first. I have a bigger tree over here that I need to paint in over on this side. It's one of my bigger areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some brown. I already have brown in my mixing tray. I can mix my own color of brown, but for demonstration purposes and for time saving, I'm just going to use the brown that's already in there. Okay? I'm going to add quite a bit of water to my brush because I want it to paint in a light wash. Okay? So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paint in what we call strokes. Okay? Strokes are when you pick up your paintbrush off the paper. Okay? I'm painting in about 2 or 3 inch sections at a time. Okay? I'm not scrubbing at my paper. I'm not trying to make it clean. Now, if you've ever watched a painting demonstration on TV, you know, if you happen to watch PBS and, you know, there's Bob Ross, you know, scrubbing away at his painting. Okay, Bob Ross is painting on canvas, not paper. Okay, so we have paper. It doesn't hold up to scrubbing as much as fabric does, okay? Fabric is what they make your clothes out of. Obviously, that holds up to a lot of water, a lot of scrubbing, a lot of color, okay? So, different materials, okay? So we need to make sure that we are picking up our paintbrush and that we are not scrubbing at our paper. What happens if we scrub at our paper? Well, we're going to end up putting a hole in it, okay? Also, I'm moving the water around, okay? I'm not letting it pool or puddle in one area. If I do that, then I'm going to end up with a really curly paper. My paper is already kind of curly from where it's already been wet from when I painted on this before, but it's not too bad yet. If I have huge puddles of water resting on my paper, it's just going to want to curl even more, and that's going to make it more difficult for you to try and go back and paint the next time. Okay, so a little bit of water to help spread everything around, but not so much that you're creating puddles. Okay, so I have my tree painted in. It's not perfect yet. I'm going to go back and add some more stuff to it, but I have it for the most part painted in. Okay, so my tree's done for right now. Yeah, there's some lighter areas and there's some darker areas, but that's okay. I'm going to move on because I like to work on my painting as a whole. I don't want to just work on one thing and finish it perfect and then accidentally go with a different color and be like, I just ruined 10 minutes worth of work, okay? So now I'm going to grab my mixing tray and I'm going to make some green to go along with the grass that I've already painted in, okay? To be able to mix some green, let me slide some stuff around here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to actually mix green. I am not going to use this green that is on my palette, okay? I'm going to use my own shade of green that I'm going to mix. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to start off with some yellow, okay? When you mix colors and you're mixing with yellow, or if you're making a tint and you're mixing with white, you always want to start with that lighter color first, okay? The lighter color, which is, in this case, yellow, is really easy for it to be overpowered by the blue, and before you know it, you have a really, really dark blue-green, or you can't even tell that it's green, okay, because there's so much blue in it. So, start with your yellow first. Take a little bit of blue. I can always go back and add more. I cannot take it away. Mix, 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 okay? That's green, but it's very yellow-green. Go back to my blue. Mix, mix, mix. Okay, that's more of the shade of green I'm looking for. I have a little bit more of a blue-green on my paper already. I'm going to add just a little bit more in there. That looks fairly close to what I mixed before. Okay, I'm going to add some more water to it. Why? Because I want to thin this color out so I can paint in washes. Why do I want to paint in what we call a wash? Because if I mess up, I can paint over it. Okay, I can also control how dark or light my color is. I can always go back and paint over it and make it darker, but trying to go back and make it lighter, that's a challenge, okay? So I would rather make it light and paint over it 2, maybe 3 times, getting it exactly the way I want it and be able to control it, versus painting it once and being, well, now I'm just out of luck, okay? So I'm gonna go back into my grass area. I'm not gonna worry about the part that I've already painted. I'm going to come up here into my middle ground where I haven't painted it yet, okay? Now my tree that I painted, it's still kind of wet. I want to create a hard edge where this tree is. So I need to let it dry so that way my colors do not bleed together. Hard edge, meaning colors do not bleed together. My path here that I've already painted that leads up to my pond, I painted that I think a week ago. It's definitely dry. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to start painting my grass right next to my pond, or not, yeah, right next to my pond and my path. I'm using short little vertical strokes starting at my path, okay? Why do I want to use vertical strokes? Because grass grows vertically, and that's just going to help to add to my texture of my painting, okay? And as you can see, bring it in here a little closer. My road is not bleeding into my grass, nor is my grass bleeding into my road. That creates a hard edge by waiting for it to dry, okay? So I'm going to keep painting my road, getting closer and closer to my tree that I just painted for you guys not that long ago, okay? I'm going to take a small little break and let that continue to dry. So I'm going to work back towards my pond now. Again, vertical strokes, because grass grows vertically. Okay, so think about that. Grass grows vertically. Why would I want to paint it horizontally? Okay, vertical, if you don't remember, is up and down. Horizontal is side to side. Okay? So I'm just going to keep painting in my middle ground. Okay? I'm going to go right up around the trees that are in my middle ground. Okay, I'm just kind of avoiding the area right next to the tree that I just painted for you guys for just a little bit longer. The paint is really almost quite dry by now. The less water puddling or pooling you have, then the faster the paint is going to, it's not going to be dried completely, but it's going to be dry enough that we can paint next to it and create a hard edge without it blending together. So I'm going to go up to my tree now. It's still damp, but it's not really super wet. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to paint my vertical strokes right next to my tree. All right, and I'm going to show you here. I was able to create a hard edge without it blending together. Why? Because I let it dry. Now, I didn't spend 10 minutes letting it dry, although I could have, but I didn't waste my time and let it dry. Okay, so what are some things that I could have done while it was letting it dry? Let's say maybe I already had all my grass painted in, or I worked a lot faster. Well, I could have, if I needed clean water, I could have gone and gotten some clean water. That's something I could have done while I was waiting for it to dry. Okay, I could have, you know, if I spilled some paint on the table, I could have gone and cleaned that up really quickly. I'm not trying to find something that's going to occupy 20, 30 minutes of my time. This is just tempera paint. It doesn't take that long for it to dry. Okay? But I just want to make sure that I'm giving it that time to dry that it needs, so that way it doesn't bleed all together. Okay? And as you can see, by adding that extra water to the green that I mixed up, it just lets that paint go so much farther. Okay? Which is what I want, because I mixed that color. Now, I'm pretty good at mixing and matching colors, but sometimes it can be a challenge. Okay? So, I'm gonna continue working on painting this, and I'll come back with the next little clip showing you how to add more texture to your painting.